Last year, week in and week out, the Patriots struggled with offensive consistency. So this offseason, they added Bill O'Brien, hoping to solve these offensive woes. The question is, will it? Let's go ahead and discuss. And what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo. Just in case you did not know, so go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content as always. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse, as today we're talking about the New England Patriots. Yes, that's right there. Next up on my deep dive series is we're going to be talking about the coaching staff. We're going to be talking about the scheme, because that's very important when it comes to the Patriots offensively. And we're going to talk about the roster. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to give you my projection for the New England Patriots going into the 2023 NFL season. So let's go ahead and get this thing started with the coaching staff for the New England Patriots, as it's been Bill Belichick for 23 years. And what a 23 it has been, as these Patriots have been very, very good under Bill Belichick. Tom Brady deserves a lot of credit with that, as well as, hey, I mean, y'all notice I got that Tom Brady jersey back there, and this is I'm a Dolphins fan. So you might be like, oh, you're a bit biased. No. I know who my daddy was in the AFC East for 20 years, which is fortunate. Some people don't even know their dad. And as a Dolphins fan, I know my daddy was Tom Brady, and then grandfather Bill Belichick. But I digress. Bill Belichick has been a wonderful coach, a very good defensive coach. As you can see, he's won Super Bowls almost everywhere he's gone, as he won 2 as a DC and then 6 here as the head coach. And we're going to be expecting much of the same when it comes to this defense, as they're typically an attacking 3-4, but they do a variety of different things. I put here man heavy coverage, but they have no problem going into zone if the game plan calls for that. In terms of blitzing, they don't typically do that, but if the game plan calls for it, depending on who they're facing, they definitely will ramp up the blitz game. I believe they were like middle of the pack last season in terms of blitz rate. Looking here, they were 7th in pressure rate, which is great, but when you look at their blitz rate, they're about middle of the pack. So regardless, this is a defense that's very adaptable, very they're just able to adapt to whoever their opponent is, and they've been that way for quite some time. They have 2 DCs there. They don't really use titles like that, but essentially these are the 2 DCs in Steve Belichick, Bill Belichick's son. If you didn't know, he's been with the squad since 2012, and then Jared Mayo, who's been with the squad since 2019. He actually played about 8 seasons under Bill Belichick, so a guy that's very familiar with how they do things here in Foxborough. But now they bring in Bill O'Brien for this offense that has seemingly struggled the last few seasons, and they're kind of hoping Bill O'Brien will come in here and basically help Mac Jones. Like, listen, we spent a first round pick on this guy. We kind of want him to work out. So they're bringing in Bill O'Brien. And you might be like, okay, yes, he was the former OC for the Alabama Crimson Tide, but he didn't coach. He wasn't the OC there the same time Mac Jones was there. But see, Mac Jones, after he graduated, the year he was coming out of the draft, and Alabama was bringing in Bill O'Brien, Mac Jones actually helped Bill O'Brien with, hey, this is the kind of things we do offensively here. And yeah, so I mean, there's a relationship there. There is. So like Mac Jones, very familiar with Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien, familiar with Mac Jones. I think that's a big reason that Bill O'Brien ended up getting the job here. It was like, hey, you and Mac Jones have a relationship? Oh, y'all have talked scheme? Y'all have talked football? Perfect. Because we're trying to make sure this cat works. But also, Bill O'Brien does have a little bit of history with Bill Belichick. A lot of Bills here. But Bill Belichick, as he was a former positions coach for him in like a decade ago. Maybe a decade and some change ago, actually. But yeah, he was also formerly the head coach for the Houston Texans, which, I mean, we could talk about DeAndre Hopkins, D-Hop, but he is at least rumored is he's officially signed a 2-year deal with the Tennessee Titans, so we don't even have to worry about that. And I just did my Titans deep dive. I'm glad I mentioned D-Hop there. But what to expect from Bill O'Brien? Block and scheme, I think remotely is going to be the same. The Patriots were typically a man gap heavy blocking scheme, and it's going to remain that way. Bill O'Brien really likes that man blocking scheme, that downhill type of blocking, but he's going to bring more shotgun to this offense. And that's something, like, we could talk Mac Jones, and we'll probably talk more in depth about Mac Jones in a minute, but like up-tempo, spread offense, that's exactly what Mac Jones was basically running there at Alabama. But Bill O'Brien, he kind of adds these myriad concepts. Basically, he levels the field very nicely on top of just giving defenses the same look but running different plays out of it. It's like, oh, this motion play, okay, this motion, okay, typically we see maybe a stretch play right or whatever, and then haha, gotcha, we're going over the top or we're going over the middle on you. So it's like he's very good at that. Uses a lot of pre-snap motion, which you usually have to do if you're trying to give defenses similar looks. You want to do things almost to a T, especially motion-wise, not just personnel-wise. So I'm kind of excited because last season was kind of a crap show. They had a variety of guys that were, well, just giving their opinion on what they should do offensively, and it didn't work out. It was pretty cataclysmic when it came to Mac Jones and how he played last year. And I don't want to put a lot, like some of that, yes, definitely on Mac Jones, but also a lot of that was just the lack of a play caller, a leader there. So now they bring in Bill O'Brien, and you feel a lot better about this. But let's go ahead. Let's talk about the roster. First, I want to give a shout out to Underdog Fantasy. Thank you for being a sponsor of the channel. Underdog Fantasy is currently one of the most premier fantasy betting apps, and they got a best ball tournament with $15 million in cash prizes. So if you sign up at Underdog Fantasy using promo code Broshmo, they will match your first deposit up to $100. Remember, sign up with promo code Broshmo and they will match your first deposit up to $100 dues. They got a lot of things going on currently on Underdog, so don't miss out on the action. But as always, bet responsibly, my friends. Let's talk Mac Jones, because last year was kind of a crap show when it came to Mac Jones. This offense just didn't, they didn't highlight what Mac Jones does well, because like short and like underneath, intermediate, he is pinpoint accurate. He loves throwing with time and throwing on time, having some sort of rhythm with this offense. He's very much a rhythm passer, and you got to set up that type of stuff. Like Alabama, when he was there, was very good at using the screen game, using the play action, getting RPOs. They were very good at that. And the Patriots, they just haven't been. So Bill O'Brien now comes in, and I think he's going to definitely focus on a lot of those things. Like just looking last year, like the screen game was almost non-existent for the Patriots. They had even play action wise, they weren't running a ton of play action either. And if they were, a lot of it was under center, which is fine, it really is. But I think it's gonna be nice, because you look last year when like out of play action, like Mac Jones was very successful. They just didn't do it enough, and he was successful deep. I know some people will be like, well, on passes 20 plus yards, he threw only 4 tutties and 5 interceptions. That doesn't look nice. Well, when you look at specifically how those interceptions happened, we're talking tipped balls, we're talking about miscommunication with receivers just getting the wrong type of leverage and playing maybe more inside when they should be playing toward the sideline when it comes to the ball. But like, he had 18 big time throws on 20 plus yards last year with only 2 turnover worthy plays. So if you set up the play action, Mac Jones is a very good play action quarterback. And you could talk about even short or behind the line of scrimmage, setting up those screens. He was pretty effective there, as well as he threw for on plays that were 9 yards or shorter, threw for 6 touchdowns, only 1 pick. Like, I think that's where you want to really start focusing. Get that screen game incorporated. Get those just quick passes. And my biggest question is, hey, do they have the playmakers to felicitate? Do they have the playmakers to make this thing run smooth, to actually make this offense work? And I'm kind of on the I'm on the fence about that. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of their stars. As you'll see, I have this offense ranked 21st and 26th. I talked about some of the positive with Mac Jones. Ultimately, though, my opinion with Mac Jones is he's kind of a mid quarterback. Like, he might have that Kirk Cousins ceiling, but I think we're talking best case scenario there. That's my opinion, though, on Mac Jones. I don't think he could ever be an elite quarterback, but I think he could maybe flirt with a top 12. But currently standing, we're talking about a guy that's maybe a top 20 quarterback in the league. You're kind of hoping he takes that next step up. But like I said, I'm pretty confident of the ceiling, at least when I evaluated him as a prospect. I'm very confident of the ceiling of Mac Jones, but we need to talk about these playmakers, as I don't think they have a ton of them, or at least not a lot of the right playmakers. They just extended Devontae Parker, and he's fine. Like, when healthy, he is your prototypical X wide receiver, good possession guy, a guy that can go up and make the contested catch. He's fine. But I don't think he's a wide receiver one. So they also bring in Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he's one of the better slot receivers in the league here. I really, really do. So then who's that other wide receiver? I'm going with Tyquan Thornton, someone who is, you could do a lot of fun things with, man. You want to get some of those jet sweep, or even a jet sweep fake motion. Like, he's that guy. And he showed some of that last year, because I think he started the year banged up, and then it was like mid-year he came back. I remember his first game, he had that jet sweep touchdown, and he's someone that could just take the top off of the defense as well. He's got that vertical speed. I think he's that guy. I think on our lads, we'll just go ahead and look at that real quick. They actually have Kendrick Bourne listed at that. I think Kendrick Bourne is just a fine wide receiver 4. He could come in, he could play in the slot, and I think honestly he's at his best in the slot. Or he can play outside as well, but it's like I'm looking for more of that. Who is this game changer who could tear the top off the defense? For me, that is Tyquan Thornton, and I wasn't even that high on him coming out of the 2022 NFL draft class. I just thought, vertical speedster. I thought it was a bit early in the second round, but he is someone who is capable of that. Looking at the rest of the depth, they bring in Demario Douglas, who I think can do very similar things as Tyquan Thornton. He is someone you can use on jet sweeps. You can even honestly line him up in the backfield. He's going to be very good in the screen game because he can create after the catch. He is He is a wonderful athlete, but he is undersized. So someone who's kind of has a niche role there in the offense. They list Kayshon Boutte. There's not been a lot of good reports coming out of camp, apparently, of Kayshon Boutte. Keep in mind, I had this guy going into last college football season, or this past one. He was a top wide receiver for me, but I had a lot of caveats. I was like, hey, man, we need to check out. He just had 2 ankle surgeries. Will he have the same type of explosiveness? And he didn't. He didn't when on the field. He just didn't have that same explosiveness as we saw the prior 2 seasons. On top of that, the production dipped. On top of that, he didn't test well, which kind of like, all right, he didn't look that nearly as explosive as he did prior to, and now the testing numbers aren't nearly as good. So those ankle surgeries, I think, had a big effect on him. On top of that, you have the character red flags all last season. I'm not going to get into it. If you want to see you could go check out my content from last draft if you want a full scouting report on him, as I was very I really like this guy. I think he's got a lot of ability, but there are things that scare me about him. Oh man, I just made it get lighter on accident. There we go. That's like good. That's good. There we go. I think that's fine. Maybe not. Oh no, it's getting dimmer. I could cut this out of the video, but I don't think I'm going to. Oh wells. So okay, if he's not gonna make it, then who is that sixth guy? It's Matthew Slater, guys. It's Matthew Slater. He's been a special teamer for this team for 15 years. I don't think he's listed. No, he's over here. Here we go. There we go. It's Matthew Slater. We could talk about some of the other guys they have there. They're converting Malik Cunningham from quarterback to a receiver, which I said during his whole process, but people are like, no, he's a good quarterback. It's like, no, he's probably going to convert to a receiver or running back. Trey Dixon, I believe he was an undersized receiver out of Central Florida. He's probably a long shot to make the team. Oh, he's not undersized, 6 foot, 191. So, but still probably a long shot to make the team. So I'm kind of content in, like, the 4 with Parker, Bourne, Juju, Thornton, and then Slater is almost a must. If they keep a 6 receiver, it's probably Douglas, unless Butte really has a strong camp. Okay, but what about their other playmakers? And we'll talk about that right now. As at the tight end, as you can see, I have Hunter Henry here. But we'll go back and you're going to see that they brought in my boy, fins up Mike Gesicki, because he is a very good athlete. The question is, though, with him is he's not really a great blocking tight end. Like, he's a tight end if you're going to block with him, get him in motion. But they're bringing him as a receiving tight end, while Hunter Henry is more of someone who's very good all around. They have Anthony Ferkser, who's a very good blocking tight end. He was there with Tennessee, ended up going to Atlanta, following Arthur Smith, and now he's here in New England. There isn't really anyone, I think, to talk about on the depth. Scotty Washington, wasn't he Wake Forest? Okay, so Scotty Washington was a former wide receiver, now moving to tight end, so maybe a long shot there to make the team. Johnny Lumpkins, it just didn't test out that well. He's probably gonna be more of a practice squad guy at best. But let's talk about the offensive line, going to my starters there, as I have Trent Brown, Colt Strange, David Andrews, Michael Onwenu, who is a monster. I mean, he's the best offensive lineman on the team. And then Riley Reef, who is the cat they're bringing in to kind of like fill in for Isaiah Wynn. Was that guy last year? Last year they're playing both tackle spots because Trent Brown can't stay healthy either. But they bring in Riley Reef, who is just an average, like, he's okay. He's fine. He's a veteran. You're going to get at least, like, if he's the worst player on your offensive line, you're going to feel like your offensive line's at least in pretty good shape. But there are some guys I think that can maybe make a case to be one of the starters at tackle, because I'm pretty Cole Strange, David Andrews, Michael Onwenu, phenomenal. Cole Strange, yeah, he had his hiccups last year. Ultimately, very good pass protector. I think he's going to get better as a run blocker, and I think he'll be much better in year 2. I think those guys, phenomenal. Bam, you're good there. But who can compete for the outside? Calvin Anderson's wasn't a bad option for the Broncos, I believe, last season, correct? I believe he played for the Broncos. But he was actually pretty solid last year when called upon. So not only is he, it was Broncos. Not only is he just good, he's not just good depth. I think he can actually compete for that right tackle job. They got Connor McDermott. He's a depth guy. Someone, though, I would like to see maybe if he ends up starting near the end of the year. They have City Sal, who they drafted in the 4th round out of Eastern Michigan. Phenomenal athlete, great size, good strength, who is just not technically there yet. Needs a lot more polish. I think he could honestly play all 5 spots on the offensive line. My question is, does he make maybe a case to play tackle at some point in the season? That's going to be very interesting to me. That's something I think to watch out for. They have Jake Andrews, who they drafted out of Troy. He is really a developmental guy because David Andrews, I believe he's close to, if not 30. David Andrews. 31. Okay, cool. So, yeah, so someone they're going to be developing behind him. There's Antonio Mafi out of UCLA. The guy's a guard only. He played a little tackle, I believe, at UCLA. I know he played the opposite side of the ball. He used to be a defensive tackle. But he's someone that they're going to be developing. So if he ends up on the practice squad, that won't surprise me. They'll probably opt to hold on to like James Frantz. I don't know. He's been with the team for a while. He's just a reliable depth guy at this point. They have Andrew Stuber. I wasn't that high on him coming out of Michigan. I thought he was good size, but he's just kind of it just kind of continued a run of me not really liking Michigan offensive tackles. I didn't like Jalen Mayfield. I didn't like Andrew Stuber. And then I think this year I didn't like Ryan Hayes, who ended up going to the Dolphins, which is just great. But he might make the squad. I don't know. It might just be a practice squad guy. I think for sure your starter. You got your starters here. You got Calvin Anderson. They're going to hold on to McDermott. And if anything, I think Andrews or Mafi comes out, and then James F here ends up taking one of those spots. I don't think they're going to hold on to two rookies on the offensive line as depth pieces. But I feel good about the offense. I was looking at the offense and I was like, all right. I mean, I think they're kind of mid right now. It kind of all depends on how do the tackles function. Trent Brown, when healthy, is fine, but can he stay healthy? Riley Reif, very mid, but maybe Calvin Anderson gets worked into that. And even then, it's not like Calvin Anderson's this huge improvement. He's really not. He's someone who'll come in and just do his job and do it well. So can the blocking go from more of this slightly above average to their first this is a unit that could be a top 12 in terms of run blocking and pass blocking. So we'll see. You'll see right here. I got Ramondre Stevens. That's kind of a no-brainer. He will be the starter there. We'll look at the depth here real quick because I don't think there's a lot of... Well, I mean, there's kind of some variety here at running back. As they got Ramondre Stevens. He's really good. For a big dude, he's actually got very nimble feet. But let's not act like he is a phenomenal receiving back. No, he could run the standard running back route tree and do those things. But let's not act like he is this let's not act like he's Christian McCaffrey or Austin Eckler or anything. They have Ty Montgomery. He's more of a I would say special teamer. They'll probably have him offensively because he's someone that you can line up in the slot. You can move around. But they also have J.J. Taylor still on this squad, formerly out of Arizona. Undersized, but very good scat back. Does he make the squad, though? I think the guys they hold on to. I think definitely they bring back Pierre Strong, Kevin Harris. Though Pierre Strong, I think there's a good case he ends up being the guy who comes in and fills in that Damian Harris role from last year. I was a big fan of Strong. He's got really good long speed. He's got good contact balance. As long as he can break that first tackle, then watch out. He could be off to the races. And Kevin Harris was someone I also liked out of, I believe it was South Carolina. If I am to be, yeah. He's kind of he's a similar mold to Pierre Strong. So it's those two guys are very similar, but what are they doing in the passing game outside of, between Ramondre Stevens, Pierre Strong, and Kevin Harris, they all do very similar things. Where is this variety? Where is this spice in the background? Well, it's Ty Montgomery. No, it's not. It's probably going to be J.J. Taylor. So are they going to hold on to 5 backs? No. So who ends up on the out there? I don't know. That's going to be a good question, I think, to have. Part of me, it's going to be, I think, between J.J. Taylor and Ty Montgomery. I think that's at least what the Patriots are going to do. Bailey Zappi made an appearance last year. I mean, I think we have to talk about it. He was fine. He wasn't scared to make throws. This was a guy that he throws with a lot of confidence in his arm, even though he doesn't have like the strongest or the biggest arm. And I mean, that goes back to his days at Western Kentucky, where he broke Joe Burrow's touchdown record. So I think he can be a high-end backup in the NFL, but I don't think he's someone you want consistently as your starter. All in all, this offense, I had him somewhere between 21st to 26th. At the end of I think they can be a top 20 unit. It really depends on how Mac Jones and Bill O'Brien, how does this combination work? Is Juju and Devontae Parker enough as playmakers? Me personally, I don't think so. But does like Tyquan Thornton, maybe does he take the step up and be this just dangerous threat out of the backfield, maybe off screens, and someone that can also just tear the top off the defense? Like I think there's reason to be excited, but I don't have a ton of confidence because, I mean, these are some guys that I just didn't have high expectations for going into their respective drafts. Again, guys like Jones, guys like Thornton, I thought they were overdrafted a bit, but I definitely think this team, at least offensively, is going to be much better than it was last year. So we will see. We will see. I'm actually more excited to talk about the defense here. This is a very good defense. I have it as a top 10 unit. My biggest gripe, I guess, it's a young secondary, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. But they did lose a big piece last year in, well, Devin McCourty, who is now officially retired. Feels like he's been with the team for like 6 decades. He's just been a Patriot for that long. So the question is, who's going to replace him as that free safety? And I don't think there's a good answer on the roster, actually. I put Adrian Phillips here, but he was someone who actually was used similar to Kyle Duggar, where he played a lot in the box, he played a lot in the slot, but Phillips did play more deep than Duggar or some of the other guys there on the roster, like Jabril Peppers, even Jalen Mills, someone who actually can play corner if you need him to, but he's just not that good of a corner. That's why you move him to safety. So that's probably one of the bigger questions that I have. We could go take a look at the defensive roster here, is specifically who's going to fill in that role of Devin McCourty, who can play deep. Like, Adrian Phillips is a very good veteran safety, so if they ask him to do that, I don't have doubts about it. I think that's cool. Maybe one of these guys that like a Joshua Bledsoe, who was at Mizzou, but he was more of a slot guy there at Mizzou a couple of years ago. So like, the guys you're starting or you're keeping it's Jabril Peppers, who, I don't know, they just have a ton of versatile safeties, but not a ton that I'm like so confident in them consistently playing deep. Because I mean, if let's just go look at it, because they're having to replace almost 800 snaps deep. Devin McCourty played 784 snaps deep, so like that's a lot. Like I said, second place there was Adrian Phillips with 200. So you're asking a lot here. You saw the starting corners I had were Christian Gonzalez and Jonathan Jones. They bring back Jonathan Jones on I think it was like 2-year, 18 million. I can't remember. I think it was 18 million, but it was a solid deal. I think those two are your starting outside corners, and then you're gonna have Marcus Jones, who has done a lot for the squad, whether it was in the slot, as a return man, even offensively. The dude had a stinking he had 4 receptions last year for 78 yards and a tutty. He had that ridiculous 48-yard touchdown the dude is good. The dude is good. I'm happy. I was a big fan of Marcus Houston coming out of Houston. But let's look at the depth here, because it's important to talk about, like, someone who showed a lot of promise last year was Jack Jones. And it seems like he has been in the doghouse this offseason. He had the gun charge. So we'll find out. Like, that was, like, his play was good last year, but, like, down the stretch, he kind of got into the doghouse. And then this offseason, after he jokes on, was it John Morant? He gets his own gun charge. It's kind of ridiculous. They do have Sean Wade. They traded for him a couple of years, or a year or two ago. They traded for him from Baltimore, which is kind of funny because I thought he was Sean Wade when he came out of Ohio State. I was like, he kind of feels like a Patriot. But they also bring in more size with their late round picks in Amir Speed out of Michigan State and Isaiah Bolden out of Jackson State. So do those two guys make the roster? I don't know. I don't think they're going to hold on to that many, but I think maybe we might see one of those cats make the opening day roster, the other put on the practice squad. Miles Bryant's a very you can do better in the slot. He's not that good of a slot player, in my opinion. That's why you got Marcus Jones there. I'm excited to see Christian Gonzalez. I think there's an unfair expectation. If you're expecting this dude to come in and be like Tyreek Woolen or Sauce Gardner, like, set your expectations lower. That's not fair. Like, Christian Gonzalez, very good athlete, ridiculous athlete, perfect for this scheme. Especially if they're going to go more man heavy. Yeah, he doesn't necessarily play with, like, great physicality. But I thought during his second half of the year at Oregon, you kind of saw the ball skills. You saw a bit more want to be physical from him. And I thought it was kind of wild that he kind of took a bit of a slide to where New England was able to snag him. They even traded down with the Steelers and got Christian Gonzalez. I thought it was a good get. And I think he might have some bumps his rookie year, but I think all in all, it's they're moving in a positive direction. I think they got a lot of good players there in the secondary, and it's just going to be interesting to see if these young players like Christian Gonzalez, Jack Jones, Marcus Jones, how do they step up? You could even go extend that to Amir Speed and Isaiah Bolden. Who's going to fill in for the shoes of Devin McCourty? Those are big questions to me. Move into the linebacker position. Let's work our way closer to the line of scrimmage. You got Jawan Bentley, who is just exceptionally solid, like very solid. Not like a nutty athlete. Doesn't make a ton of splash plays in coverage. He is very much a minimal yards after catch guy. Like, hey, okay, you might catch it underneath, but you're not going to gain yards after the catch on me. He's very much that, but he also brings a good blitzing element to him. He's a very good run stuffer. He is just solid linebacker. And then you got Jelani Tavai, who came in last season here, ended up playing almost 600 snaps, and wasn't bad. Really wasn't. Just ended up being a solid athlete. So I think it's fine, but obviously they're looking for better at that position with who they drafted in the third round, and my boy out of Sacramento State, Marte Mapu, someone who caught my eye at the NFLPA Bowl, went on to the Senior Bowl and looked great. But then prior to his pro day, ended up, I believe he tore his pectoral. I believe it was a pectoral tear. Let me confirm that. Because if it is pectoral, it's typically, I think, a 4 to 6 month recovery. As we saw Nolan Smith as he come back from that. And Cody Rhodes. I can't help it. I'm a wrestling fan, guys. I'm a wrestling fan. Torn pec it was. So he tore that pec in April. So we got May, June, July, August, September. So we could probably expect him somewhere in October, November. He'll probably start as a special teamer. They don't need to rush him. Like I said, Tavai has been very good for him. It was pretty solid last year. I'm going to talk about more Josh Uche when we get to the pass rushers, so won't even worry about him. Chris Board, depth. That's about it. Mac Wilson still with the squad. He's kind of whatever. I'm trying to look for another like cat here. They did bring in a UDFA and Fadokasi Aloakone. I believe he's the former Rutgers linebacker. He was a UDFA last year, excuse me, but yeah, former Rutgers. He is eerily enough, like I think if they hold on to him and they kind of develop, he is Jawan Bentley. That I at least in terms of what his ceiling can be. So they got they're fine enough at linebacker. Like this is a very linebacker friendly scheme. I think I mentioned that in the Titans video because Mike Vrabel very much takes a lot of his defense from what he learned from Bill Belichick. So it's a very linebacker friendly scheme. It allows linebackers a lot of freedom to more so play players and not necessarily cover empty space. So it's a very, very linebacker friendly scheme. Moving on to the defensive line. This is a team that I think they were top 3 in sacks last year. They were tied for 3rd in sacks. Pressure rate, they were 7th. Like, this is a team that gets to the quarterback. Really does. Like, all in all, this defense was phenomenal. They were, again, tied for 3rd in sacks. Even interceptions, they were 3rd in interceptions last season. Like, this is a team that can get pressure and they can force the quarterbacks to make poor decisions. Matt Judon was a big part of that last season on the defense with 69 pressures, 17 sacks. Love to see it, but my man needs some help. He might be like, well, I mean, he has help. Like Joshua Uche was very good last season, 56 pressures, 12 sacks, but this was someone who was more utilized as a rotation player. He was only on the field for 373 snaps. Like, so very much they've kind of made him into this DPR, if you're not familiar with that term, designated pass rush only. Though I do think he has the versatility to actually play in coverage or play like a middle linebacker, inside linebacker position. I thought that out of Michigan. I was like, this is a guy that's like kind of a Swiss Army knife in what you can use him for. Like, he can drop into coverage if you really need him to and be fine at that in that role. So like, he is just very versatile. But the other kind of player that was involved in the pass rush last season was Wise Jr., who, I mean, when they turn him loose, very good. Typically, though, that's not happening until about 3rd down, as he was a very disruptive pass rusher on 3rd down last season. Like, I think his pass rush win rate on 3rd downs was in the top 5 in the league. So he had 56 pressures, 8 sacks last season. However, I think early down, though, he is very much a non-factor if teams are passing early. I don't want to say non-factor, but I don't know. I think he's a solid enough edge too, but there's a reason they went out and got Keon White. They're trying to look for maybe something better. And they probably don't want to pay Wise a ton. Like, what's his current contract looking like? Definitely just misspelled contract. Gotta love it. 4 years, 22 million. That contract will come up. It technically goes till 2024, but they can get out of it after this season and save themselves 8.7 million in cap space. So he could be someone that they just let go, depending on Keon White, how he develops. Remember, this dude's exceptionally raw, but he's got a similar build to Wise, who's like, what, 6'5", 270? Yeah, 6'5", 270, 271. So very similar build, can play that inside, like that four eye tech. So he gives you a versatile body type. So again, I think that's a part of them looking to the future. I kind of already mentioned Joshua Uche, kind of what his role is here in this defense, excuse me. They have Anthony Jennings and someone who else, another guy that came out that I was like, man, this guy kind of feels like a Patriot. It's kind of interesting they list him at edge here. I think for me, I kind of got Dante Hightower vibes from him, and that's kind of why I like projected him to the Patriots a ton, but he's kind of a do-nothing at this point. Last year, he did have over 340 snaps. Literally did nothing with them. If anything, he was more effective as a run stuffer than a pass rusher. So it really depends what will they get this year, or how good do they feel about maybe Ronnie Perkins, someone who they drafted in the 2021 draft in the 3rd round out of Oklahoma. How do they feel about him maybe seeing a bit more playing time? I believe and I do believe in that cat. So I believe maybe he has this. Maybe he kind of takes over for Anthony Jennings. But at this point, we're just looking at depth guys. We could talk about the interior. You saw I had the listed starters as Christian Barmore, who's a monster, very underrated in my opinion. Was a little banged up last season. And then you have Devon Gachu, who's former Dolphin, fins up, baby, haha, you're welcome. Who kind of like takes he will play when they go to like nose tackle. He will play that role. He had almost 400 snaps over top the center or in the or at one tech, or so like that's kind of their guy when they do that, and he's been solid in that role, like very much so. He is more run defender, more space eater than he is as a disruptor. He's just not that guy. Speaking of guy, we got Lawrence Guy Sr. here. Last season played over 500 snaps, but someone that's more of that plays more of the Christian Barmore role. So he's going to be depth to Christian Barmore. Daniel, was it Equala? Equal? I don't know. Go ahead. I know y'all will correct my pronunciation in the comment section below, but he actually played almost over 350 snaps last season, and I didn't think he was particularly that good. I thought he was kind of like, he's mid, like not even mid. He's a depth guy. So, like, I think they're fine in terms of like, okay, you got Lawrence Guy, you got Christian Barmore, Devon Acho, he's fine as well. Outside of that, there isn't many other guys that can, like, I think play that role, or at least at nose tackle, one tech exceptionally well. Carl Davis was a cat that they got out of Iowa, and honestly, I couldn't tell you much about him. He's been around the league, it looks like, for quite some time, so maybe a reliable depth option. He's been with New England since 2020, but you didn't see playing time last year, did you, my friend? Let's see. Oh, you saw 200 snaps. It was all right. But yeah, he was that other guy. Actually, I think he was second on the team in snaps and nose tackle. So I don't know, man. We'll see. Regardless, this is a very good defense. I mean, I don't know what more to really say about this defense. It's good. Can they make up if the offense ends up being a bit meh? I think we will have to see there. But let's go ahead. Let's get to what you arrived for, what you're here for. You want my projection, and I have them 7-10. And you'd be like, I think they were 8-9 last year. That's worse than last year. No, Bill O'Brien's going to help their team a ton. Listen, I will acknowledge, I think this team got better last season. Like Devin McCourty, kind of one of their biggest hits. But I think they'll be fine. Every other NFL team, for the most part, most NFL teams go into every offseason trying to get better. Top of this, and believe this isn't hate as a Dolphins fan, but I'm trying to look at this unbiased. And in terms of strength of schedule, I have the Patriots having the toughest schedule in the freaking league. So yeah, it's kind of a tough schedule. I think there's going to be ups. There's going to be downs. 7-10. I think currently Vegas betting odds have them at 7.5. I don't know if I'd touch that, but I think I'd be willing to maybe take the over. I don't think I'm touching that. That feels on the nose, on the money for me. If injuries happen and you're having, again, to my projections, this is the toughest schedule in the NFL. So it's going to be a tough ride for the Patriots. Let's go by the game by game. They open with the Eagles. That sucks. That's a toughie. Godspeed. At least you get them at home. Dolphins, Patriots, I have them split in. Dolphins and Patriots always split games. They just do. It's kind of been the thing. I believe I have the Patriots splitting with the Jets as well. And do I? Yeah. But I have the Bills winning both games. So sorry. I think the Bills are pretty darn good. And I think that's just going to be a tough team to beat regardless. I do have them losing to the Cowboys. And I mean, Cowboys are a good team during the regular season. Do have y'all beating the Saints, and I know this might get under the cross on people. Got us losing against the Raiders? Raiders aren't even that good. Bill Belichick's so good against former coaches. He's not. I think I looked up this record. He's 18-19 against former coaches or assistants. It's a toss-up. I do think the Patriots are a better team, and the Raiders, just kind of a question mark. But I think that's a game. It's at home. It's in the black hole. I think the Raiders maybe could edge them out. Don't ask me to put money on it, because I would. But yeah, I mean, going up to their look at it. Even your home game before the bye, it's in freaking Germany. That sucks. But at least it's against the Colts, a team that's kind of rebuilding. I got y'all beaten. Washington, you come out the bye, and you're going to get a win over the Giants. I'm calling it. But, I mean, looking at the later part of the schedule, it's really tough. You get the Chargers, who they're always in the playoff discussion. This is point in the year where the Steelers just never say die. This is the Steeler team. Mike Tomlin's like, yo, hey, I never have had a losing record in the NFL. I thought last year was going to be the year. And guess what? He was like, nah, not on my watch. So the Steelers are going to be a tough team. And they're a team that honestly is much better than they were last year, I think. A lot of guys coming into year 2, Kenny Pickett, George Pickens. We'll talk about the Steelers eventually, though. You get the Chiefs off the Chiefs, them coming off their bye. That's fun. That's great. Denver Broncos, I think they'll be a better squad. Then again, I think there's a fair case to be made that the Broncos weren't that good down the stretch. Oh, that's not true. Things were starting to click for them down the stretch last year. You get the Bills at home, who are probably going to be vying for like their seed in. So whether they're a 1, 2, or 3 seed, you can make a case for the Jets. They're going to be vying for the playoffs too, but I have y'all split in anyway. But the Jets are coming off mini bye. What the heck's a mini bye? An elongated week, I guess? I don't know. But Yeah, that's kind of my case I'm making here. I have y'all 9 games against teams in the playoffs. That's tough. You got to win a record against losing teams, but the record against winning teams, and unfortunately, they're very good winning teams. We're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, who were the NFC conference champions. They were in the Super Bowl. You face Super Bowl champion, the Chiefs. Let's be honest, you're playing in the toughest division in football, which I know the AFC North can maybe make a case, but the AFC East, like, all those teams are really good. Dolphins made the playoffs last year despite having some good Tua, some bad Tua, and then a Skylar Thompson. You got the Jets now with Aaron Rodgers. Oh, Aaron Rodgers ain't crap. He's a year removed from an MVP year. Last year was a down year. I'm not saying he's going to return to MVP status, but that's a very good team. And then the Bills, always very good. Cowboys, they're a solid team. We could always make jokes about the Cowboys, but the team that's consistently in the playoff hunt. We could talk about the Chargers. We could talk about the Broncos. I expect them to be better. It's a tough schedule, man. But I could go in circles just talking about how the Patriots have it tough. And you know what? I'm not going to lie, as a Dolphins fan, I look at that and I'm like, good. I'm tired of the Patriots being good. To be fair, even now without Brady, y'all are still a fairly solid team. So I can't really talk that much crap as a Dolphins fan. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. And as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.